All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Stories from a Mountain Town. This is your host, Tyler. It's just me today. I've been really busy lately and couldn't find a guest for today's show, and I've taken a little bit of a break, but we're back. We got a few guests lined up for the next couple of weeks. Really excited about all those people coming in. As always, we are brought to you by Snake River Brewing. I'm actually drinking some wine right now, but have these out here for product placement. Today, I kind of wanted to just talk to you about a general Jackson Hole summer update. Tell you how things are going here, what it's like living through a summer here, what I do here for fun in the summer. Talk about a little trip I took recently to Steamboat Springs for the weekend. That was really cool. And then wrap it up with talking about Yellowstone National Park. I just went there for a little day trip with the dogs, if you saw any of my Instagram stories or anything. It was really sick. But yeah, we'll get to that. So, first and foremost, Jackson Hole summer. Jackson Hole summers are, the old saying goes here that people come for the winter and stay for the summers. Because everyone knows Jackson as being this outstanding ski destination, snowy mountain destination, snowmobiling destination, all those things. But what they then learn is that our summers here are just so much fun because, once summer hits, early to mid-June is a normal time for this. It just doesn't really rain or it's not really cloudy until middle of September or October. Don't get me wrong, there's sporadic storms that'll blow through, or there's a couple days that'll be cloudy in a row, but pretty much every day is just this cloudless 80 degrees and it's dry, so it's not humid. It's not like that Minnesota heat that you may have heard me talk about and that I grew up in. You can go out and in long sleeves or some light pants or something, and you're not sweating your balls off. You can actually be outside, enjoy the patios, your patio, restaurants' patios. You can go on hikes, and if it's not one that's pushing you physically, you're not going to be dripping sweat. And there's just so many different activities to do. In the winter, it's kind of your one of two activities. You're either skiing, snowboarding is one, and then snowmobiling is another. Cross-country skiing is common. But outside of those few things, there's not really much else to do because there's just so much snow everywhere that you can't do anything. But in the summer, there's hiking, there's mountain biking, there's fishing, there's hanging out on lakes, there's paddleboarding. There's floating down rivers on a tube. There's, if you have a boat, driving boats around the lakes, because there's quite a few lakes around here, actually. There's camping. There's riding your road bike on the paved pathways. There's bar hopping around town. There's patios at the bars and restaurants and breweries to hang out on. There's bonfires to go to. So the summers are more. The summers are for people who who aren't the most extreme skiers or most into skiing. Where you can come here and there's a wide range of less extreme activities to get yourself into, and I just think that's really, really special. Where you don't need to be specialized in one little area to have a good time here in the summer. You can do a little bit in a lot of different things. And I think that shows by the amount of people that come here in the summer. Jackson gets about 1 million tourists a year in the winter, and then 3 million tourists in the summer. And I think that's because, a couple of reasons. All those different activities, you don't need to be a one-sport athlete to have fun here, like I just said. But there's also both the national parks here are mostly shut down in the winter, so you can't really drive through them. Yellowstone you can't drive through at all. There's one one little road that's open, and that's kind of for the wolf watching and the bison watching and the elk watching that goes on up there, all the way up in the Lamar Valley. But so we see a lot of people that drive from wherever, and this is kind of their base camp between the national parks, or from going to Yellowstone, or they go from here to Bozeman, or Bozeman to here. There's a multitude of combinations of paths, but I think there's a lot more families that come here during the summer. So, really, just the summers are I can't stress it enough. The summers are amazing here. Which kind of brings me into my next point. It has been insanely busy here. We all thought, I'm sure everybody in the country thought that not many people will be traveling due to COVID. And we thought, especially here, after all the warnings, like don't travel, don't come here. Our mayor and I think our governor both said, like, stay at home, don't come to Jackson. We want to stay safe. Even after that, the numbers that they track of like campsites and visitors into the national parks, into Grand Teton National Park, we're tracking higher than the average year. And the average year, like I said, is 3 million people come here. So, over 3 million people will come through during the summer. And I'd be interested to see if they could calculate, on average, how many people on a given day are in the Jackson Hole Valley. Because we have about 12,000 residents between Wilson and Jackson. I always wonder how many people are here at any given time. And then obviously it goes up and down. But on the average day, how many people are actually in town? I always think about that. So downtown for us has kind of been a no-go, just because it's a lot of people from different areas, and we don't know how they've been treating the situation, if they've been washing their hands, if they are sick, or they're just going for it. So we're trying to stay to the local areas, try to stay to the wilderness, to the mountains, to our house, and everything's been going well. And that's one thing I wanted to bring up is, we've been noticing, and I've been hearing stories that people are coming here, and it's like they forget that we're a real town. They've been social distancing and wearing masks and doing all this stuff in their own town, in whatever town they come from. There's a lot of people from Texas here, a lot of people from California here right now. They're doing all that there. We know that. But all of a sudden they get here to Jackson and they just decide that they don't have to. And I'm not really one to care too much about what's going on with that situation, but to just forget that there's people here that are going to see a couple thousand random people in one shift at work. And what are the odds that one of them could have coronavirus? I don't know, but it's interesting that people would follow the rules in their own hometown and then come to a town, seemingly because they're on vacation, they feel like they don't need to do that sort of thing or whatever it is. But I'd really like to ask if there's anybody out there that's traveled here in the summer or going to travel here soon. Please just remember that there are people just trying to live their lives, grow their business, stay healthy, and we still have the same rules as everywhere else does. We're all just trying to get through it. So thank you. Now moving on to something more friendly. My main activity in the summers is mountain biking. I got my first mountain bike since I was a kid. Last year, at the beginning of last year, over here at Wilson Backcountry Sports from Andy. Shout out to Andy if any of you or any of your friends are listening. Andy took care of me better than pretty much any business owner I've ever encountered has taken care of me. He recognized that I don't really know what's going on with my bike. I'm enthusiastic about biking, but I don't know how to run it. I don't know how to fix it. And I've told him, I want you to be my main service provider. I don't want to do anything except for cleaning the chain and re-greasing the chain. You get to do everything, and you get all my business. But he saw an opportunity, I think, where there's someone new to the sport that he could make a long-term client out of, long-term customer out of. He discounted the bike off of a factory discount that he did not have to cover, but he did. And then he gave me discounts on all the other accessories because you can't just buy the bike, you got to buy helmet, gloves, backpack or fanny pack or water bottle or bear spray or there's all the things. There's shoes, whatever it is. And he gave me all these discounts on all this stuff, and he's been fantastic. I'll go in there just probably sounding like an idiot to him, asking him questions about the bike or about trails or whatever, just kind of shooting the shit. And he always has time to talk to me, and he's always been a really awesome guy. So, Andy, thank you for welcoming me into the sport of mountain biking because I've had a blast. So the area of mountain biking that I go here is called Teton Pass. It's the pass that goes over to Idaho, and there's like 6 or 7 different trails with pretty big vertical. And they all have a range of terrain where some of them are more flowy, fast, open ones. Some of them have like berms and jumps and gap jumps and terrain, man-made terrain like that. Features that are built into the landscape by humans. And then some of them have what's called technical trail, and that's like a rock garden. That's like a bunch of boulders sitting in a random array that was just there that when they made the trail, and then you got to navigate your way through it. And it's all really, really difficult trails. If you're listening to this and want to figure out, want to see what I ride, go and YouTube Lithium Trail Teton Pass, and this video by Nate Hills does a great job of showing it off. He breezes over everything way better than I do. And due to the GoPro effect, it doesn't look as steep as it is. But that is one of the gnarliest trails I've ever ridden on a mountain bike anywhere. And it's right in my backyard. So because of that, I think I've been able to get a lot better in the 1.5, almost 2 full seasons that I've been really being an avid mountain biker. And it's been so much fun because, I can... A classic Saturday for me lately has been I go out and I do some sort of pedal ride where I pedal up something with the dogs and then ride down it. And it's usually a milder trail, try to find something but with a creek nearby for the dogs to be in and cool down in. And then bring them back, make a lunch. Maybe we go hang out by the Snake River to cool them down even more if it's really hot out. And then I'll leave them here and I'll go over to the Stagecoach, park my truck, and then hitchhike up. And this is one of the coolest the coolest parts of Teton Pass, the Wilson mountain biking culture, is locals around here, and I've done this plenty of times. If you see a mountain biker at the Stagecoach, the bar right at the base of the pass, right in Wilson, and you just pick them up and you bring them to the top or one of the trailheads, because a lot of people drive over to Idaho every single day from here. And so they're already going that way. So they just are super generous and just let you sit in the back of their truck bed, or sometimes they'll let you sit in the truck or in the car with you. But they're all really nice, fun little conversations. And it's just this really cool little cultural piece that you don't find anywhere else. I've never heard. I tell people that of what I do, and I'm like, yeah, I just hitchhike up the pass, or yeah, I picked these kids up and I brought them up the pass, and they're like, what? You did what? You hitchhiked? They allow that? That's legal? I've had that people questioning if it's even legal, and I think it's legal. I don't actually know, but it's just this awesome piece of Wilson culture that I think it's outstanding every single time, because it sitting in the bed of a truck, going up the pass, watching the valley floor below you, and the sun's often setting at the time I do it, and it sets onto you can see the orange on the east side of the valley. There's not a lot that can beat that. And then you pick your trail, and there's 3 different parking lots you could go to with the different trails that would start there. And then you ride down, and they all the single track, the main mountain biking trails, they all come down to this trailhead called the Old Pass Road Trailhead. It's a parking lot with trail signs, whatever. That is where the literal Old Pass Road started. and that's where it went up. And it's now just kind of a walking path that they have kept paved. But then you ride down the road for a little bit, down a little bit of a bike path, and then there's a little bit more single track, and then that takes you right into the parking lot of the Stagecoach, and you can go right to your truck, go get a beer, go hang out, get some food, or you can even go right back to the spot where you hitchhike and do another lap. There's a lot of kids. I picked up these 13, 14, 15-year-old kids, and they're the sickest riders ever because all they do all summer long is just hitchhike Teton Pass and do these jumps and do these trails all day long over and over again until it's dark or till dinner or their parents call them home or whatever. And and they probably live right in Wilson, so they just freaking bike home. I mean, it's just an insanely cool culture that I'm really happy to be a part of. And whenever I have the chance to give someone a ride, I do, because it's valuable. The feeling you get when you've been waiting there for a little bit and then finally someone pulls over and says, yeah, hop in is it's very exciting. So yeah. All right, then let's see. Moving on. Oh. So I, like you've seen in the last episode, and if you follow me on Instagram or anything, I have been summiting some peaks this summer. As you heard in the last episode, I and my friend Alex Kisnerigus and I climbed the Middle Teton. The Middle Teton is just around 13,000 feet above sea level. It's the second tallest peak in the Tetons, third tallest peak in Wyoming. It's right next to, just south of the Grand Teton, and it's just barely below it. The Grand Teton is like 13,700 something, and then this one is like 13,080 or so. So way up there. And it was just an outstanding climb. Everything went great on my climb of it. It's 90% of it's just a really long hike and a pretty intense hike. But then the last 10% of the ascent, you're basically climbing up a couloir, and it's not quite vertical. It's not quite a wall where you have to have ropes or anything, but you're doing some hand and foot work. Like you're climbing a ladder. You're like using your hands to get up on things and it's a couloir. It's a full on couloir. So it's really awesome. Then you just climb up and you get to the peak and it's just like, it's amazing. And that's up there with one of the most fun days I've ever had. One of the biggest physical efforts I've ever given, because it's a 12-hour day, only stopping for breaks every once in a while for like getting some food and some water. So you're moving. Like I had some couple recovery days after that. But if you're into that sort of thing, definitely get out here. Definitely text me and let me know. I'll show you the route. I'll let you know how to get up there. I'll give you some beta on it, which is a new term I learned while doing this. For those who don't know, beta is when you give someone some tips on a climb they're about to do or a hike they're about to do. So write that down. I'll fill you in on everything that I know, and it's definitely fun to do. If you're into that sort of long thing, and if you know anything about the mountains, if you feel safe in there, it's great. And then the next peak that I did, or Taylor and I did, and the dogs, we did Jackson Peak. Jackson Peak is a slightly lesser known peak because it's not in the Tetons, it's in the Gros Ventre mountain range, which is on the east side of the valley. But it's the most prominent peak on that side, up there with the Sleeping Indian. It's kind of near the Sleeping Indian. And I think it's just over 10,000, maybe 10,000, maybe 11,000 feet, something like that. Not a crazy tall mountain, but it's a very prominent peak, so that makes it super cool. And the hike isn't that bad. It's about 11 miles round trip, with a lake and plenty of creeks up there for the dogs. So we did this with the dogs. And I think I just had so much fun being able to do a big summit like this with the dogs. Like how many other dogs can say that they've been over 10,000 feet high or 11,000 feet high, and Bridger and Mav have? How many other dogs can say they've climbed a big mountain like that? Bridger and Mav can say that. I don't know who they'd say it to, but they're saying it. But it's really awesome. It's another one of those hikes. It's not difficult. It's not dangerous in the sense that you're like climbing rocks or there's like boulders or anything. It's just a hike, a long hike bring your bear spray because there's definitely bears there. I've seen bears there. But it's really beautiful. There's a really awesome lake called Goodwin Lake up there. People camp up there. Definitely bring a launch. What we did is we got up pretty early, got up there, started hiking up, made our stops at the waters, whatever, brought a bunch of water for ourselves, and then summited, and then came back down, and then had our little lunch picnic, our little sandwich picnic by the lake after we had summited. So it's kind of just like a relaxing, like, okay, we're done. We did it. We cooled down. Let's have our food. Let's take our time now, and let's get out of here. Get out of here safely. The flies were really bad when we did it, but I think that's done with. I think that's like a middle summer thing. But I don't really know. But yeah, Jackson Peak, great peak. I would definitely do it again. I think, Ryan Brown, if you're listening to this, text me. I think Ryan Brown and Darren Brown want to do it. I don't know their propensity for really long hikes, but Ryan said they want to do something kind of big and maybe get like a summit in there. So we'll see. They're coming out Labor Day weekend. And that Ryan is going to be one of my guests coming in the next coming weeks. So yeah. Let's see what's next. Steamboat Springs. So yeah, Jackson Hole summer in all, amazing. This is my second summer here. So much fun. I don't know if I would say that I came for the winters and stayed for the summers. I think I came for the winters and stayed for the winters. But I've been having so much fun here. The ability to just be chill and not be sweating all the time, and the multitude of activities you can do every single day is amazing. So it's great. But don't come out here. Promise. All right, Steamboat Springs. So yeah, I just got. So some of you may know, Taylor Weiss, my girlfriend, she took a travel nurse assignment in Minneapolis, to be near her mom during her mom's cancer treatment, which is great. I'm happy she did it. Happy she could be around her mom for that challenging time, and that's all good. And she's making good money. But so since she's gone, I have all this, free time on my hands. I'm a semi-free man. I can kind of go where I please. So I decided last weekend or 2 weekends ago, I was just going to drive down to Colorado because I wanted to do a camping and mountain biking trip. And I was looking around. I mean, like, stuff in Idaho, but not till you get a little bit farther west. Stuff in Montana, but I've been to Montana. But I wanted to go to Colorado. I haven't been there in a while. So I was looking, and Steamboat Springs is kind of the first town, the most far north, like real mountain town. Whew. Not COVID. So I did some research. I found out that there's this area called Buffalo Pass. And I think it's a real pass that goes through the mountains, but it's dirt. It's like gravel. So it's not like Teton Pass or Togety Pass. It's like gravel. It's like a shitty road. And there's mountain bike trails. It's like a full trail system, just like Teton Pass would have. Then when I learned when I got there is there's camping all the way up it, like the whole way, like sites everywhere. And I got there. Work kind of kept me here for a little bit later than I wanted to, but I drove down there, got there a little bit late, like just at sundown, and couldn't find a site on that Friday night. So I just slept in my truck, which was fine. Big truck. Plenty of room to spread out, and the boys are fine too. But we wake up and we do this trail. I forget the name of the trail now, but it's right next to the trailhead. It's kind of a big loop that goes kind of with the road and then back to the trailhead. But most people know about Colorado, there's aspen trees just everywhere there. So this trail was really awesome because it just wove itself through all the aspen trees, and aspens have a pretty high canopy, I think. So you're just under this canopy, and it's like, it's not too hot once the sun gets up, and they're really pretty with the leaves and the white bark and things. So that was really cool. And the boys had a good time, and it's this cool mountain bike scene because there happened to be a race in the area at the time. So there's a lot of riders there when I was there, and it was really awesome. So yeah, we did the ride in the morning. We went down into town, started checking out the town, um, went over to the village, Steamboat Springs, ski resort. And the thing that I noticed right away, and made me thankful that I live here, the village there is just really, really, really built out. Everything, it's a lot bigger village than Jackson Hole Mountain Resort, than Teton Village. And all the buildings are like these 8-story tall condo or hotel buildings, like big, big buildings. And it just made me realize like how little the Teton Village is, and how they've done a good job of restricting the building height. I think there's laws against that here, so that you're not really ever blocked from the mountain. And I think that's so important, because I felt like I was just like in a downtown area when I went to this Steamboat Village. And I never feel that at Jackson Hole Mountain Resort. So I'm really thankful of how they've allowed ours to be built out and develop and grow, but do it in a way that makes sure to remember what they're there for. That's the mountain. That's Rendezvous Mountain. So that's what I thought about when I went to the village there. And then because I was all sweaty from mountain biking, in classic Tyler fashion, I went and took a little bath in the Yampa River. I don't know. There's a river that goes through the middle of the town. Classic mountain river, cold, clean water. Just found a spot to access it through a park, and grabbed some body wash and a towel, and just went down there and scrubbed off, and then went on my merry way. And it feels really good. It feels so refreshing to just like cool off like that and get cleaned up. And then did a couple errands, and then found this really cool brewery. There's a ton of breweries in this town, and the downtown area too. Forgot to mention that. The downtown area is this really cute, like postcard style downtown, like, Main Street going through it, shops and restaurants and things, tourist things everywhere. It was really cool, and it was super busy. I'm sure they're having the same effect as we are here, with people coming when they shouldn't be. But yeah, super busy, really cool little downtown area. Steamboat's really awesome. And there's actually like a city around, it wasn't just a village. There was a city around it that you could actually find yourself, building a life in, having a family and having a life in, that sort of thing. So it's cool. I almost forgot to mention. So then, after we do that and got some lunch, went back up to Buffalo Pass, because I knew that's what the camping was. And I just started driving up the pass, trying to figure out where I could camp. And I kind of identified some spots that would be preferred near the trails that I wanted to ride, and that wouldn't be too bad of a pedal. But then I just kept having to go up and up and up and up, because it was super busy, because like everywhere is right now. Everyone's trying to just camp in their RVs, and that's all great. But I ended up getting all the way up to the top of their signature trail called the Grouse Trail. And this is where they had the race on. So it was a really extreme trail. What I had heard about it, it was kind of like Lithium Trail here, big enduro, big vertical, technical stuff. But this was different. They had a pro line. So they had the course set up for a race. And I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. I'll follow the racetrack. I am not good enough to be a mountain bike racer. The things that they had set up for these guys were insane. It was like a 9-foot rock roll into a turn that was on the edge of a cliff, with like loose pebbles everywhere. It was nuts. So like I'm at the top of this trail, setting up camp, and I just hammock camp. So I just setting up on my fire and in my hammock and things. And these guys are going to ride it, and they're like, I'm like, did you guys just pedal all the way up here? And they're like, yeah, it's kind of a bitch. It's a long way. It's like a 6-mile climb. I was like, I don't really want to do that. And so I'm just like, all right, boys, we're going to start pedaling. We get going on our way, and some cars are passing us, but nobody's picking us up. And I'm like stopping and put my thumb out every single time someone go by us, and Nobody did. So that was pretty frustrating just to not, I mean, maybe it's just like the random people that I encountered or what, but maybe it's not a thing there, but pretty frustrating. So I had to pedal all the way back up. And like I said, it's 6 miles of climbing. And it's at like, I mean, you go from like 8,000 feet to 10,000 feet. My campsite was at 10,000 feet. So I'm huffing and puffing. I thought I was going to lose Maverick on this climb. He was like walking super slow, which he never does. Like I was stopping. We'd have to sit in the shade. Like the boys were having a tough time. It took a really long time because we had to stop so many times for them, which is super necessary. Their safety is above all. But we get back up. We get up to the top. We make it. So excited. It's shady up there. It's cooler up there because it's higher up. I can just relax. Like finally, I could just chug as much water as I have. Frickin' get some food going. Hang out finally. So then I brought some steaks up because I have a cast iron pan that I cook over the fire oftentimes, and get my fire going. It's starting to burn down so that I can cook on it. And these rangers come up, and it's just like 2 kids in their 20s, guys in their 20s. So it wasn't like scary, but they're just like, "Hey, did you know there's a fire ban?" I'm just like, "No. Did you have any signs up?" And they're like, "Yeah, all over the place." And I'm like, "I must have missed those. Sorry." And they're like, "Yeah, can you put this out?" I'm like, "Yes." And then they give me a warning. So, don't do any fires. I actually saw this recently here too. Fires at dispersed camping is not allowed at this moment because it's super dry here right now. Don't start a fire near Steamboat because I guess there've been fires around, which is cool. I'm all for that. We don't want anything to burn down. But then luckily I had a camping stove with me, so I just made my steaks that way. And I had a delicious couple of campfire steaks. Obviously the boys had some because I can't eat 2 full steaks, and they loved that. That was the reward for having to walk all the way up that dirt road after Dad was an idiot. And then we kind of just sat out. We went on this rock, and there's some exposed kind of flat rock areas. And there was this perfect little curvature. It was kind of like a little sofa, like it had like a little backrest. It was like a little spot for my butt, and then my back went up. And I just sat there for like probably like 2 hours just watching the sunset. Because when you're up that high, the sunsets are just incredible. Pretty much all the way until it got dark. We just sat there, and the boys were sitting right by me, sniffing around, walking around, whatever. And then once it got dark, I was just like, I don't really have anything to do. I can't do a bonfire. I'm alone. So I hopped in my hammock, got that all ready to go, and just kind of read my book for a little bit under my headlamp. Then went to bed. It was a great trip. And then I got up in the morning and picked up a couple of supplies, some gas, some things. I got a breakfast at a really great breakfast spot down there, right in the main drag, and came home. Short little trip, but it's those kind of things that I like to do when I'm alone, where I don't really have any expectations of what I'm gonna do. I can kind of sleep anywhere. Like I said, one night in my truck, one night in a hammock at 10,000 feet. And Taylor's pretty low maintenance, but those are the things that I probably couldn't do with her. Like she just wouldn't want to do that, maybe because she's smarter than me. But it's those little kind of just dumb little day trips where it's just like you can just kind of check something off the box. Are really fun to me, and doing it with the boys helps. Having some company, FaceTime and chat with a lot of people on the drive down there because it's a super boring drive. Southern Wyoming is some of the most boring country I've ever been through, and I've driven from Minnesota to Wyoming a lot of times. Driven from Jackson to Santa Rosa, California, through Nevada. That's boring. I've driven just about everywhere in the country, and this is some of the most boring country I've ever seen. Dry. It's called a high alpine desert or high desert. It's like 6,000 feet of elevation, but just like bone dry, like no trees. Some of the towns are pretty cool down there, but in between the towns, it's not cool. Sorry, Southern Wyoming. yeah. So great trip. Love Steamboat. If you're into like having a town around you, around the place you want to do the activities in, go to Steamboat. It's awesome. I'm sure it's called Steamboat Springs. I'm sure there's hot springs there. I didn't see any, and it was so hot I would not have wanted to go in them, but I'm sure that's a cool aspect of the town as well. So it's great. So go there. And then last but not least, Yellowstone. So today I'm recording this on Monday the 17th. Yesterday on Sunday, the dogs and I, actually before this, on last Saturday, I was hitchhiking up the pass like I do for mountain biking. And the guy that brought me up there was a guy that works for one of the wildlife guide companies here. They just take vans up in Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Park, and they find animals for people to see and take pictures of. So he's a guide for one of them. And he was just saying how the buffalo in their rut, so they're really, really active right now. And because of that, there's some injured buffalo that then the wolves are being active. So that my ears perked up at that. And I was like, holy shit, I freaking love wolves, dude. Is this for real? Like, where should I go? Like Lamar Valley? Like, I know these spots from all the documentaries I've seen. Where do I go? He's like, yeah, dude, just go up there, go to Lamar Valley. There'll be buffalo around there. Go to wherever. Like, they're active. So I'm like, shit, yeah, that's what I'm doing tomorrow. Thank you for the tip. And it was this perfect timing where I was considering, this happened twice now. I was considering doing a trip or doing a little like a day thing. And then somebody out of the blue, totally random, comes into my life and has experience or has a tip on that trip or had just done the thing. Like with the Steamboat thing. I met these two guys 2 weekends ago, and I was just sitting down by the river with the dogs in the water, like cooling off. And these guys roll up and we're just chatting, and they mountain bike. And then they're like, yeah, do you know where to go mountain biking here? I'm like, yeah, I'm going later. And they're like, can we come with you? For sure. So we do a lap, and they're saying that they just were in Steamboat, and they told me all about this trail, the system that I just told you about, where I camped and where I biked. And that was exactly where I was already looking. Like I was considering going there, and these guys just roll into town and are telling me that they had just been there. I mean, like, what are the odds of that? And they were cool guys. We did a really sick ride of lithium. And then this time, I'm literally considering, I think I might want to go to Yellowstone one of these days because I haven't really spent much time there, and I'm sure the animals are pretty active right now, and whatever. And then this guy just picks me up, and he's a freaking guide there, and he knows a lot about Yellowstone. So it's just like crazy how things work like that. Like, I'm not really a religious person, but maybe God is putting these people into my life for the brief moments that I'm seeing them, or whatever. Or just fate, whatever it is. But it's insane how this happens. And so I say, yep, I'm doing it. Let's do this. That looks sick. So we already have a park pass, so I can just go in there, show them my pass, and I get in, for free. We buy the yearly pass because we live 15 minutes away from one. So get the boys packed up, pack a lunch, some beers, bunch of waters in a cooler, cameras, stuff like that. Get everyone all loaded up. We leave early here. We get out there, and it's busy. Like, it's Yellowstone. I mean, it's going to be insane right there right now. They're probably having double their normal numbers. But I do where I just had the map around me. But so Yellowstone kind of has a figure 8 in the middle of roads, and then there's like 5 or so little roads going off of it to all the external gates. So I come in through the main south gate. There's only one on the south side. And then I go up, and I'm trying to get to Lamar Valley. So Lamar Valley is on the very northeast side of the park, like basically to Montana, and a little bit east of where I come in. So normally there's a route that goes straight there, but there's construction there, so you couldn't go on that side of it. So I had to go up on the west side of it through where Old Faithful is and all like the famous like Grand Prismatic, which is this giant, colorful hot spring pool kind of thing with all this fun bacteria, so it makes it all colorful. All the way through that, and then all the way up to Mammoth Hot Springs, which Mammoth is like, I mean, I'm sure I was like 20 minutes from Montana there at that point. Mammoth is like kind of a little bit of a town. There's like cabins around it. There's like a fort. There's like Fort Yellowstone there, which is, I guess, the Army used to hang out there in the beginning days of kind of like trying to protect the park. And then there's the the actual hot springs there are like this wall of like calcified rock. It's like incredible. It's like this 100-foot wall of like calcium deposits from these hot springs. It's incredible. It's so big. And, you know, along the way, there's the minor ones too, but like this Mammoth Hot Springs, it's incredible. You need to go see it. So then from there, so you go through Mammoth, you take a right, you go through, and you start going straight east, and you get to Tower Junction or Tower Roosevelt. And then you go a little bit farther east, and you get to the Lamar Valley. And this is the famous Lamar Valley. Anytime you've seen Yellowstone wolves on Nat Geo or any documentary or whatever, it's in the Lamar Valley. They're famous. The Lamar Valley pack, they're famous for being, or the Druid Peak pack, they kind of change what they're classified as, depending on who has the numbers at that year. They're famous for being bison hunters. Wolves, these are the only wolves that we know of right now that hunt bison regularly and kill them for their prey or for their food. So they're a famous wolf pack. They're the Yellowstone wolf pack. Anytime you've seen them, if you've seen the movie Black Wolf, anything, it's these guys. So I'm up there and I'm super psyched. Like I'm a wolf nerd. I can admit it. I absolutely love wolves. If you know anything about me, you know that. And I'm up there. I'm like, this is kind of like the Hall of Fame of wolves that I'm in. But I'm in it at the wrong time of day. I'm at there like freaking high noon. I'm there at like 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock. So it's as hot as it can be. And the thing about Yellowstone is it's not very dog friendly. The rules in the national parks are your dogs can go where your cars can go, but on a leash. So I got up there and I kind of sat there. I mean, I looked around. There's a bunch of buffalo, bunch of bison hanging out there. I sat there and watched them for a while in my truck, just chilling, hoping that something crazy would happen, but nothing did. Didn't see any wolves, except for the two in my back seat. I saw those two guys. So that was a bummer, but I can now say that once I see these documentaries again and the new ones they'll come out with, I can look at that area and say that I've been there. I can kind of picture where they're filming a little bit better, and I think that'll be exciting. And I need to go back there. I need to see wolves. There's just something in me, and maybe I'll bring Bridger to see his ancestors, his cousins. But there's just something in me that like needs to see that. You know, it's hard to describe. But there's something about wolves and the way they operate in a pack, and now, you know, living with one and raising a dog that's part wolf, it kind of connects me even deeper to the animal. And I do need to see them. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Maybe I need to wake up at like freaking, you know, just head up there at freaking midnight and see them at, you know, really early morning, or just find a camp spot for the night and just stay up there past sunset and whatever. But it would feel incomplete if I lived this close to the wolves, the Yellowstone wolves, and didn't get to see them before my time here is done. So yeah. Then on the so once I figured, I was like, all right, I don't think anything's gonna happen because it's pretty hot out. I don't think the wolves are gonna be doing anything. Started heading back, and there's buffalo everywhere, so that's super cool. But I mean, I see buffalo. I could drive 20 minutes and see buffalo here. That's not what I went there for. But buffalo everywhere. A couple of them, they're in their rut, so they're pretty aggressive with each other. So there was two, they were kind of wrestling. And then they crossed the road right in front of my truck, and they were both head on facing me, and they were like making all these grumpy noises, like fighting noises. And I'm like, are these guys about to frickin' go at it right here, or ram my truck? And I was seriously nervous for like 5 minutes. And then Maverick is losing his shit in the car. He's like yelling at them. I don't flow. Went back through, went along Yellowstone Lake on the west side of Yellowstone Lake. And Yellowstone Lake is incredible because it's really, really big and it's really high up. I think it's probably at 8,000 feet of elevation, and it's like this really, really big lake. Like, I don't know how many square acres, but it's large. And I don't think there's many boats that are allowed in there. I don't know what the fishing is like, but it's kind of eerie because it's just this enormous body of water with nothing on it. And there's hot springs along the edges of it, mountains along the edges of it. Really, really extreme stuff. It's super cool. So then came back down and followed that back down to the main drag, back to where it comes back down into Grand Teton National Park. And then right as I was about to get back to Moran Junction, which is in my valley, there's a mom grizzly bear and then two cub grizzly bears walking along the side of the road, just hanging out, doing their thing. So that was super cool to see. So add that to the list of, we saw shit ton of bison, antelope, elk, and a grizzly, and 3 grizzlies. So it's a pretty good day in the park. And then finished up. Sorry about that. Had to sneeze. Finished up with a good day. I think in general, Yellowstone, it's really an American treasure. The landscape and the geology you see there are second to nowhere else. The only way you can get these rock formations and hot springs and geysers and mountains and elevation and all this stuff there, this energy that's there, is because there's a super volcano under the middle of Yellowstone. And we've talked about this before in the podcast, but so the Yellowstone volcano, it erupts every, X thousand of years. It has a range of, 8 to 14,000 years or something. And the last time it erupted was roughly 8,000 years ago. So we're like right in that zone where it could erupt actually any moment, and it would be on track with what we have records of it doing as far back as we have records of it doing stuff. And all of that energy is why Yellowstone is special, because the altitude in Yellowstone comes from the heat of the volcano pushing the land up over time. And it's kind of just like, it's like, like on your pizza crust when you have those bubbles on the crust because the heat pushes it up. That's Yellowstone. There's heat under it pushing the crust up and making this big bubble of elevation. And that's what Yellowstone sits on. And all the hot water and the funky colors, it's all there because of this super volcano or caldera that's there. And it's seriously incredible. I would recommend everybody in America needs to go see this. This is one of America's treasures. There's beautiful places all over the earth, but there's no place like Yellowstone. I can guarantee you that. So go see Yellowstone. But don't do it this year because it's super busy right now. Do it next year. So that's kind of all I had for you. I just wanted to get on here. I haven't been on here in a couple weeks. Been super busy, like I said. So, in general, go to Yellowstone. Jackson Hole summers are incredible. Steamboat Springs, really fun. As always, brought to you by Snake River Brewing. Thank you guys for sponsoring the podcast, helping us out. You guys are great. If you're in town, go there. Best beer in town. And we have a new partner, kind of the podcast, we do their digital marketing now. Jackson Hole still works, people. The only distillery in Jackson Hole. They do a vodka, a regular gin, and then a double cask gin. And I'm not kidding when I tell you this, guys. These are the finest spirits I've ever had. They call it a grain to glass approach, where they literally, I was there the other day for this, they have a relationship with a farmer who brings them 30,000 pounds of corn or wheat or whatever they would need for that batch. every 6 weeks or so, drops it off in his truck. Like they put it in these big grain bags, and they take that grain and they mill it down, turn it into all the process. They take the actual corn and process it all the way through to create their spirits and their final product. And then they bottle it, label it, and ship it to liquor stores all across Wyoming. I think they're in 15 states. I don't want to name them all, but message me if you want some. I can get you some, definitely. But they're a new partner to the podcast. I'm going to have the owners, Chaz and Travis, on here next week, I believe. We're trying to work out the scheduling, but that'll be a great one. Look out for that.